Welcome, welcome very, very much to Conversation. It's a pleasure to welcome to the program a gentleman that I'm really pleased to have on the set. It's Jay Janson. He's got an incredibly interesting story to tell, which we're going to let him tell as much as he can of a very interesting and fulsome life in both concern with things political. You can see we have a picture of a person we mutually admire in the background, Mr. Clark, Ramsey Clark. But he's also a tremendous musician and involved in the music world. And Jay, welcome so very, very much to Conversation Manhattan Neighborhood Network.
Thank you.
You are an incredible person. I've been to your bio, and the more I go there, the more I get impressed. I don't know how you fit it all in, but what I wonder if you could you just, I'm going to just give you a chance, could you share with us your background, born and raised a little, and some of your background, and then we will get into a conversation about the things that are of concern to you and the current human condition. Because you share like born and raised, little education, and then let's just get into a conversation to illuminate the work that you've done in your life.
Well, Harold, I love you, but I don't think it's germane to a good conversation.
Okay.
If you want to say what I am now, that's what I am now. What I am right now is an expat American who finds it extremely difficult to live in this country because I lived in 67 other countries, and it's a bizarre experience and painful. I mean, if you have a Korean and Vietnamese adopted family, how do you cope? I mean, how do you cope? It's people who went to Vietnam are called heroes, and so I'd rather start there. I mean, as far as music goes, you can read my letter from Pablo Casals or something to show my.
I did. Amazing. Yeah, amazing. But you play trumpet, right?
Right.
And then.
And at the end of the we're going to have a little bit of my music at the end.
I don't know if we're going to be able to get it in, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. I don't think we're going to be able to. I'm sorry. As it happens, it's just that we won't be able to get that in.
Mm-hmm.
But you're a musician, and you'd rather talk from now rather than go over your life like born and raised.
I think it's more interesting from the audience too.
Okay.
And everybody's born someplace,
That's true. That's true. That's true. But you had an incredibly interesting career and life's work and everything, and you have lived all over the world. You speak 5 or 6 languages.
I'll tell you where I can start. I can tell you where we can start. I mean, we've already talked together. We pretty much know where we are. I'll start just from today.
All right,
I was on a tennis court today.
Good.
And my next court over, my dear Filipino friend has a heart attack.
No fooling.
And immediately, you see, all these people are gathering around, concerned about this man's life.
Yes.
Now, there's no one but me probably on the court that's interested in the turn of the century that Americans killed 1,000,000 of his countrymen. Slaughtered 1,000,000 of them after the Spanish-American War, and then the War of Independence, where the Filipinos wanted to be free from America. I mean, that's just an example. I gotta get over here. You see. So the Pope is in town.
Yes,
so
I know.
I almost didn't get here because the thing is all blocked up. Now, what is this all about? I mean, let's understand the horrible situation of deception that the whole world is in that permits, the colonial powers. Because we still live in a colonial world. I mean, it's still the white people run the world, and it's still the non-white people that are getting killed. So. Why is this? The Pope. Let's block. First of all, one of the big things about the Pope is it covers up Xi Jinping's visit from China. Makes China doesn't look quite as big and imposing because they're going to focus on the Pope. Never mind Xi Jinping; he'll be here in a couple of days, president of China. And secondly, you see. I actually heard someone being interviewed or something, this ordinary person in the street, and what do you think about this, the Pope? And he said, well, ISS is trying to kill Americans, so that's why they have to. This is absurd. This group in Syria and in Iraq and every place else. this is just all, they're attacking Americans' enemies. They're attacking the Syrians, overthrow the Syrian government. They're attacking the Shiites in Iraq. So we want the Sunnis, so we don't have Iraq and Iran combining. And they, of course, have destroyed Libya already. The most wonderful country, the 53rd highest living standard, quality of life.
Could I ask you, had you been to Libya?
No, but I know you have. That's where
I was there about 6 or 7 times.
I saw the video. That's why I
did a program with him. Yeah,
well,
I liked him very much. I thought he was ahead of history's curve, for whatever it's worth.
The best thing of that program that you did was when you asked Gaddafi a question and he answered it with, "We're not going to have peace in the world until we get rid of wage labor." The idea of people being forced to work for other people with trickery and stuff like that, that's never going to never going to end, and we're going to have peace until that ends. And that was wonderful. That video was fantastic.
I think it was, too. I liked the man. I was really, I tend to be, for whatever it's worth, I suppose a regular old sort of democratically inclined liberal. You know, the sort of standard academic thing. But in the case of that, so I mean, I would vote in normal terms Democratic and that. But I tell you that that was Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama who did that, and that really brought me up short that they would have done that, and then NATO behind it. It was very disruptive to me because I think he was sort of like, for whatever it's worth, the United States of America set up a system that was countervailing the hereditary, the hereditary feudal order from 1,000 years after Rome in Europe. They were setting up a new system. I think in Libya they were, from scratch, in a sense, setting up a system that was in advance of where we are and to where we're going to go, and they just brought down chaos. And so it really undercut my understanding what in the world they did that for and why they did that and bombed it. It was just destructive. I just wrote a soliloquy. I wrote I think he's going to emerge as a martyr in the longer term, but I didn't want to go off on that. But yeah, I had a particular, and Ramsey Clark was there.
Well, the thing is, he didn't get there. He was on his way.
Oh, he was there in '86 when they bombed.
No, but I mean, he didn't get there when they were killing him.
No, I didn't either.
He tried.
No, I didn't either.
He tried. He was with the Soto. Brockman, who was supposed to go too, And, well, that's
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Sorry, that's an aside.
I want to say something about what you just said, because talking like that, like you just did, about what happened, is helpful to the enemy of mankind. Because the idea that we should start right at the beginning was that how can the former colonial powers, Britain and France, who owned the place and sucked the place dry and made it the poorest country in Africa until the bloodless revolution of Gaddafi, 40 years later or 30 years later, it's called by the UN the 53rd highest quality of life, and higher than 9 European countries.
Yes, that's right.
Now, the idea
in about 25 years.
The idea of if there any revolt against this is absurd. There was no revolt.
There was nothing to worry about.
No, there was no revolt.
They had a little thing going in atomic, and they turned that over, and then they started making their peace with the investment bankers, and then they came in and I don't understand the reality of what that. It's just undercut my thinking of any possibility for there being a political visionary kind of thing in this country.
Well, I wrote 2 articles. First, I wrote 3 articles. The first article was just a few months in, and I documented every day. And in the beginning, when they got this rabble, which we watched for 9 months, these guys in pickup trucks, they're supposed to be ordinary people, not CIA thugs.
Yeah.
Brought in and like Gaddafi well described, these are terrorists that were using in Iraq and everything else. So these guys are brought in, and it lasted for 9 months. And the idea that it could have been a real revolt. My title of my article was that there was no peaceful demonstration. There was only Nick Robinson of CNN jumping up and down and saying he's killing his own people. Well, we've heard that before. Before the United States invades someplace, they always say, well, they're killing their own people, so we'll go kill them.
Yeah. No,
So,
I think the
so that point, when they finally when they
Mm.
finally bomb,
Yeah.
when you see the colonial powers
Yeah.
bombing a
Yeah.
African country,
and America,
then forget all the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Don't talk. I shouldn't even say what I said about Gaddafi having done this great thing.
No, he did.
No, but I shouldn't have said it.
Why?
I shouldn't have talked about Gaddafi, because we should talk about how the world allows the colonial powers to bomb any place.
Yeah, right. Okay, fair enough. A larger tableau.
That's what has to be focused on.
Yeah, right.
Because we have the Nuremberg principles. Now, we didn't. We have the Nuremberg
Yeah,
principles.
they're killing huge numbers of people with without any comeuppance at all. Or Iraq, invading Iraq. And Madeleine Albright was on that thing with CBS, and there were 500,000 children who were dead from the sanctions that have been put. Sanctions are a kind of act of war. They killed all these people, and she said, well, I guess it was necessary for what? They tore the place apart.
Let me try to put this in
So it makes me very hard to be cognizant of understanding the logic of what's motivating the power structure of the United States of America or the world.
Well, not to me.
Okay.
Because from the beginning, you see, the idea that the president is doing it or someone else is doing it is absurd. I mean, we have a running genocide from the time the colonial powers start. There were colonial powers. The first time the Portuguese and the Spanish and Columbus comes over here, the Vasco da Gama raids the coast of India, terrorizes everybody.
Wow.
That begins the age of Western imperialism. Before that, you got to see the history of Europe. Modern Europe is a history of the German peoples, because they come down into Libya, the Lombards, the Vandals come into Spain.
Yeah.
They literally the way the German tribes worked with the Vikings of trade or raid, and they were frightening. They came down into what is now Russia, down the rivers, and they destroyed the Roman Empire after the North African part of the Roman Empire. And then we had the Dark Ages, while these kind of Europeans cut each other up for 700 years. And you know what's happening in China at that time? Because that's what I'm hoping. We're going to have a Chinese Renaissance of humanity.
Yeah,
Well, we have the Sui dynasty.
What period you're talking now? What time? What year period? What period of time are you talking about?
Dark Ages, from 600 to
600.
No,
Okay.
from
400,
fall of the
300,
Roman Empire is 450, all the way to Charlemagne and beyond the 900s.
Okay,
like
it's
that.
about 1,000 years after the fall of Rome.
Dynasty, the Tang Dynasty is 600 to 900.
Okay.
And let me tell you how they compare with this savagery.
Please do.
Okay?
Please do. Yeah. You speak Chinese.
I've gone into takeout stores or something. You see a Korean girl, teenager working there.
Yeah.
If I show her an aphorism from the Tang Dynasty, like the night she'll say, "Oh yeah, we studied that in school." Now I'm showing her Chinese characters, and she's Korean.
Right.
And my Japanese conductor, the same thing.
Really? Okay.
I was on. That's how
culture.
That's how culture came from the Tang Dynasty and still exists till today. Throughout the China basin of culture, and I had apropos of the same thing. I had an interesting conversation with, Stephen Hawking. Right-hand man is Michio Kaku.
I love Michio Kaku. Yeah, he's a great guy.
We had a conversation for an hour and a half.
He's a wonderful guy.
Over the Pacific.
Yeah, okay.
He's going to see
in an airplane, right? Yeah.
He's going to see his father, and I'm going to conduct a play or something,
Yeah.
And we get to talking. And one of the aphorisms he looked at and he thought was cute was, it's just very poetic, like the Japanese haiku or something like that. It said, I remember it now. It said, the tree wants to rest, but the wind keeps blowing. And the son wants to see his father, but he's gone.
Yeah.
So simple, you know.
Like haiku,
you know what I mean?
It packs a wallop.
But the fact that my Japanese conductor knew it too, and it's Chinese characters. Well, I mean, to not belabor a point, but
yes,
this is now we have China coming back now.
Yeah.
So for 1,000 years, China was the most cultivated, scientific, everything in the world, you know.
Right.
And now it's coming back again. Now here's the hope. Here's the hope I have. Let's go back to the history of Europeans. I mean, in quotes to white people. Okay.
Yeah.
So now the Arabs have this great civilization, and they translate the classics, the Greeks, everything, and they bring upon us the Renaissance.
They did make a bridge with the classical,
Right. And the Renaissance is not. It's just halfway through the Renaissance that they start sailing out and conquering the world. And by 1900 something, England owns almost half the world.
Right.
The year I was born in 31, I remember the statistics said that England. This is a small country in that time, 35 million people at the most, you know. And that England, the British Empire, so to speak, the British Empire, 1 out of 6 people in the world are British colonial subjects. Another one.
1 out of 6.
One out of 6 human. One out of 6 human beings is a British colonial subject.
Right.
Another one of that 6 is controlled by the British.
It's 2 out of 6.
Right.
That's a third.
Then the French had about 30%. Then the Spanish had their 15%. Portuguese had Portugal, 4 million people controlling vast territory all over the world. You know, it's incredible.
Is it imperialism or just colonialism?
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, we don't want to talk about it now.
Yeah.
It's like, you know. Why not talk about it? Why? This is where we are. We're still there.
Yeah, right. Okay, I agree with you.
Now, what happens when they do that? They go all over the world. And these louts, excuse the expression, but I mean, uneducated soldiers from the countryside of France or England, they're standing in front of the Taj Mahal. They're standing in front of the temples of Egypt. Or take the magic city in Mexico City is built on a lake in the middle of the
Teotihuacan. No.
What are they thinking? What are they thinking when they're looking at China, the wealth of China?
Yeah.
What are these people thinking about? Well, I know what I'd be thinking because my people, my ancestors didn't learn how to read and write till a little over 1,000 years ago.
Well,
that's not much, you know. I mean, Egyptian are 5,000, and Sumerian, and China, and India, they're all, you know. What they got to say for themselves? I mean, how would you feel if you were in that situation? And then these people are coming at you and everything. Well, you know, develop something. Well, what makes us what we are? Well, look here, we're a different complexion. Look at that. Okay, so that's it. So. White is better than the other people because we beat them. We're more savage. We're willing to kill more. You know, there were wars and wars and wars in India. And if you study Indian history, all the time. But when the British got there, what the Indians noticed was they never went as far as the British. I mean, they would have the war, and if they saw too many people getting killed, they'd stop. But not the British. You know, and Britain and London was a small town when they conquered Bengal, the state of Bengal. This is Bengal was wealthy as hell, you know. So anyway, now we'll move on from there and see what happens. Because my premise is that we have had constant genocide, not periods of peace. And go, capitalism is so good, progressive and everything else. No. The genocide has been continual, and if we come back to America now, once America starts, we have the African slave trade from the New York, controlled by the New England banks. And at that time, before the cotton gin is invented and they bring all the slaves into the South, 20% of the economy up in New England is based on the slavery.
Really? Is that in New England?
Yeah. People don't remember that.
Yeah, right.
You know why people don't remember?
Why? Tell me.
Because once the demand down south for that cotton, a lot of them pulled out from the north down south, one way or the other.
Yeah, it's just an economic
decision. So they
decision.
forgot that.
Right.
The country is based on slavery.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah,
okay, this is the New England bank.
And it's original sin,
Yeah.
In which we were founded.
Right.
And accepted.
Right. You have to remember Jefferson and Thomas Paine. You talk about the media control. Thomas Paine wrote about that.
He did.
His pamphlet was the Renegade
Common
pamphlet,
sense,
you know? And Thomas Jefferson talked about the press being controlling people that way back then, you see.
Yeah.
Now, what happens next?
Yeah.
Now the land banks, they want the land and speculating and the whole question. Banking is always speculative investment banking, right?
No, if I may, I think that's we maybe we're going to get Glass-Steagall back, but Mr. Clinton did it in. But it was trying to keep a separation between the investment banking and commercial banking. They got over that in '99, but so I think there's a difference between investment banking and commercial banking.
Well,
but, I mean,
however, however the big money is in control, whether it's split into different aspects, so where you don't gamble as much in the commercial banking as you do.
Right. Yeah. Investment bank's like a crapshoot, or it's gambling and it's.
Well, or to
and
pick
it's
up
entrepreneurial. Yeah.
To pick up there with the land banks got one of the Indian land. Daniel Boone and the people out there, they didn't want to do that to the Indians. They wanted the land banks wanted the land. They generated all the necessary things to get that land. The same with Mexico. But basically, what happened with Mexico is said, well, we're going to keep killing you until you give us half your land. And then you have the Philippines, the massacre of a million Philippines.
Right.
And this is continual genocide, right? It's
That's
genocide for money.
It's.
And then you get the rape of.
Don't you think it goes back all through history in a certain sense?
Well, I did. From colonial
it's not only America. I mean, it was.
No, I went back to the Portuguese and the Spanish.
But it's not even Europe only. I mean, there's a power structure. They have dynasties rise and fall, and whoever's got the biggest army can have the conquer. And it's called realpolitik. Whoever's got the power can rule.
Yeah, but it wasn't run by business. They weren't run by business people.
Okay, well maybe there weren't business people.
You see what I mean?
Feudal order,
and business people is just the business is first, and it has to be that way. Money means more. The ledger line is more important than any human consideration.
I think that's true.
And that's the difference between the colonial period.
Has it always been like that throughout history?
No, you go back to Egyptian time and a place like that.
Well, you had a pharaoh.
But you look at that stuff, and somebody was in charge.
Well, the pharaoh.
Now, who? Wait! All those time, pharaohs and all those kings and everything. Somebody was in charge, so you could say, "Hey, what's going on?"
Yeah.
He's the one he's guilty. We should have something better than this. But now,
oh, that's a thought.
But now, when you have the banks controlling,
you got a whole bunch
and still the kings are there, is the people thinking it's the king, but it's not the king. It's the banks.
And
then you have the so-called parliamentary democracy, where people are thinking, oh, the president, but it's not the president. The president is doing everything the banks tell him to. Okay. You think Obama sits around and says, "Oh, I think I'll move these troops here and move there, and I think I won't have national health insurance like I promised before." He has to do what he's told, and if the president doesn't do what he's told, he winds up like Kennedy or Lincoln. Kennedy fired the CIA heads, Dulles. You don't do something like that and get away with it. Lincoln was interfering with the subjugation of the South. Yeah. The South was being plundered, and they wanted to plunder it some more. And Lincoln got in the way,
Yeah.
So let me go on with this. So the story goes on.
No, it's all very good, and it's true. James Joyce is great with words. James Joyce, the poet, he said, history is a nightmare of injustice from which we're attempting to awaken. Do you think there's ever going to be an awakening out of an injustice? I think the history is a record of injustice by and large. One group running roughshod over another and asserting their power through power of military power. It seems to me that's the history of the world. Civilized world, since the Neolithic anyway.
But that won't tell us anything.
Okay.
That's like saying, nature or something like that. That won't tell us anything.
Okay, what
tells us something
is
we just put a camera on a comet going through outer space 5 billion miles away, and we spent years sending another rocket to another ship to Pluto, and we were mapping the human brain. We mapped the genome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something to talk about.
Well, we did. Do you see they?
No, they didn't kill each other doing that. They couldn't have done it if they were killing each other.
Right.
So you see, it's not germane.
I'm talking about the political system, and then it gets moderated. And did you see they just discovered a link between the top line of the Australopithecine, Lucy, and the beginning of hominoid, the earliest hominoid. They found it in South Africa. They found a missing link between the early hominoid into the beginning of what was to become Homo sapien, about 1.5 million years ago. That's a real thing because we're all part of an evolutionary pattern that we begin to understand things more, don't we? Isn't there some progress being made?
We're not going to.
You don't think there's progress?
No, because first things first.
Okay, sure, thanks.
Let's go back to why I wanted to come here in the first place.
Yes, sir, by all means.
Because I hear the screaming all the time in my head. I'm on a tennis court. I can turn on the TV, but I never stop hearing you screaming. I lived in all these countries. They're all bombed by the United States.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, right.
I don't ever stop hearing you screaming.
Yeah.
When I see them roll out the flag in a football game that I happen to turn on or something like that, I know all these guys there. They got friends that are over in Iraq or something like that, and the Americans just don't give a shit, about all the people they're killing. So I wanted to trace this thing. There is a difference when things are run secretly and no one's in charge, no one looks, or there's falsification like there is now, and there has been since the beginning of the colonial period.
Oh, really? You just see
there has been this deception because the banks are always in control, not the kings, not the presidents, certainly not the parliaments, which the banks control. The parliamentary democracy is a farce.
And that's since when? About you're thinking Venice, early Venice, or from when? I mean, when did that some become part of it, where it was all the banks are commercial and that kind of thing running everything?
Well, what I was most interested in is when it became onerous for the rest of the world, as they were invaded by white people who conquered all three continents. I mean, that's what's important to me, because that tells us why the people are dying today. Now,
Genghis Khan did.
We go back to Homo sapien and talk about something else. That's just getting off the point. I mean, the idea.
Oh, okay. I don't think that way. I think
mean?
it's all one system, including the universe and everything. But Genghis Khan was pretty ruthless, and he wasn't white. He was a Mongol.
Yeah,
I mean, there's some people other than whites have been nasty.
But I'm not talking about ruthlessness. I'm talking about deception.
Deception.
Killing for money.
Okay.
Just
okay.
That.
That's interesting. You think that's a new thing, and that's from about when? And it's European by and large. You're talking.
Well, the genocide for speculative banking starts when they sent out those ships from Portugal and Spain and Columbus came over here.
So
they were joint
1500 or something like that.
They were joint ventures. That's the same.
Columbus.
That's the same as speculative banking.
Yeah.
They were joint venture. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, the deception we live under, the idea that people think right now that they're protecting the Pope, making a big scene. They're making it look like that ISIS is attacking us, and they're not. We're using ISIS to attack our enemies. Yeah, right. I hate to use the word our, but...
Well, they think it's the Palestinians are out to attack us, and they got an apartheid system they set up in the state of Israel.
Yeah.
Big issue. There is a no-no. You can't bring it up in the American dialogue.
Well, I'm just finishing the article on that I titled. It's actually some important people asked me to write a book. From the articles I published, and then
it's in voluminous articles and work. You're just an absolute scholar,
And the title of this latest article is "Until the Partition is Recognized as a Colonial Crime Against Humanity," and it's an ordinary, common colonial crime against humanity, because the division of peoples that's the way you divide and conquer. It's been going on all the time.
Yeah, right. So it happened here with our native population in the United States.
So when I picked off with the getting the land from the Philippines and everything else, and then the sacking of Beijing. Now they're in Asia. Now the banks are over in Asia.
Yeah.
And they're world power. But always the genocide is continuous. It's not like peace and then war. They're always thinking, so it's continuous.
How about back into history? Has it always been? Was there a period when that wasn't there? Is it something genetic? Is it something
there
that evolved?
There was never continuous genocide for money before. There were wars because they needed the land to live. They're going to starve. There wasn't enough way to feed each other. There were wars because
but those are wars that killed people in large numbers.
Well, look what happened in those wars. Genghis Khan, where'd he go? Everywhere he went, he put Chinese culture.
Well, they got the Tigris
afterwards.
River running red with blood with the people that were killed. There was a lot of people who were ruthlessly decimated by the hordes.
Well, that's true.
I mean, it isn't just. Oh, I don't know. You seem to want to focus on the modern banking system and their influence on the way the world works.
I want to find out why we're killing each other. I mean, why Americans are killing other people. Yeah.
Americans, but not humanity killing other humanity or that. You don't want to get into that because that's. You want to concentrate on the United States. Okay, that's fine. You want to.
Human beings don't want to kill each other.
They seem to have been doing it with alarming regularity, at least since the Neolithic, when we have some idea of what civilization was about. It was all power.
Well, you see, we've had Ashoka in India, the famous Buddhist kingdom.
Right,
Buddhism spread all over. Now, we've had good kings. We've had good kings and bad kings, but we never had a good capitalist government. We never had a good colonialist government. We've had lots of good kings.
Okay. Well, we are coming into a modern era with all the implications of what's happening in terms of the exponential increasing capability to have influence over the environment by technology. And that's given us more power. We got weapons now that apparently are species lethal.
Yeah, well,
we finally reached a real kind of break point, maybe in this process of realpolitik.
You have to be careful of saying.
Yes, sir.
You have to be careful of saying. You have to be careful of saying. Well, look, it's always been murder. Can't do anything about it. It sounds like you can't think if you talk that way. I could kill you right now, and after somebody hold me, and I say, well, it's the nature of man, kill each other.
Well, that's a point to be brought up. Yeah, you want to avoid that kind of thing because
I don't want this idea.
You want
it's the rightest argument to say that man is inherently murderous. That's
you think
the rightest
argument. Right wing political, you mean?
Yeah, the people that want war, they say, well, that's the way things are. If you talk to somebody if I talk to somebody about, I have a son that's Vietnamese, right? So if I say,
if you talk to somebody about what? I'm sorry.
My son being Vietnamese. Yeah. How can you kill 5 million people and then say it was a mistake?
Yeah.
What is that bullshit? What's that? That's not the bullshit. It's nonsense. It's absurdity. It's
why did
insanity.
It happen? Why did it happen? I was arrested a number of times for protesting against that war.
Yeah, but
in Vietnam, it was a horror.
Yeah, but protesting is no good.
Protesting
is no good because you're protesting against yourself.
Okay,
you don't protest a crime. A crime must be, if you want, the Vietnam War is on.
Yeah.
I want to go and I want to say next time, it wasn't done last time, and I want to say, well, this war is a criminal. Ron Paul says, all the wars since he was on prime TV for 2 weeks saying every one of these invasions and wars since Korea was illegal, unconstitutional, and therefore prosecutable. What are we talking? What are we prosecuting? I tell you something.
Korea,
the time when I was in Korea or in Vietnam, and if I talk to my students and I happen to mention that a lot of people were against what was being done to you in the United States. Suddenly, people are looking around.
Wait a minute, I didn't get it. You're talking to students.
We're talking. I'm talking to my students.
Are they Vietnamese or something?
Either Vietnam or Korea,
Oh, you're talking to people who had been oppressed. Okay, I wasn't sure. I didn't know if you had a bunch of Anglo-Saxons in your class.
No, I'm in Korea. I'm in Vietnam.
Oh, you're in Korea. Okay, sorry. Yeah, you've lived all over the world.
We're chatting about things.
Yeah, right.
And I wanted to make myself look good. So, I didn't want to kill you people. So
yeah.
I mentioned. I mentioned. We had a peace movement. We had people and they kind of look at me like, you trying to say you're an American, you're not guilty? Martin,
yes, right.
Martin Luther
trying to wheel out of it.
Remember when Martin Luther, this country has been a traitor to Martin Luther King, especially the civil rights movement. Every single friend and family of Martin Luther King a traitor because Martin Luther King dismissed the government as the greatest purveyor of violence in the world, and he said he held himself and all Americans, and he agonized because he was so late in speaking out. He held all Americans and himself, and that's including J. Janson, for atrocity wars since 1945.
Since 45, even, yeah, okay.
On three continents. For predatory.
So what can we?
Wait a minute.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
The end of the sentence.
Yeah, right. Please.
For predatory investments.
Yeah.
And he said
for predatory investment.
Yeah, for investments in all these nations in three continents. And he said, Americans have chosen to refuse to give up the privileges that come from the fallout of these investments, and that is true.
The fallout of the investments.
The benefit of getting, we live in America because we own the world. How did America get the whole?
Used to be London, wasn't it?
Yeah.
For a while.
Okay. So So how are we going to fix this? So
good.
I made some notes.
No, I understand what you're saying, and you just don't know how you can do it. I know.
I made some notes. So we want to say.
I think there ought to be.
We don't want to say it's human nature. That's the first thing. Because that's.
I didn't say human nature. It's history.
We don't want to say it's history either, because
I'm in a different page than you. I think we're coming to a time of qualitative transformation against the whole evolutionary process.
Yeah, but I want to stop
not just the United States of America.
But I want to stop the killing.
Oh, absolutely.
And if I say stop the killing to these people, let's say these people that are doing the killing, they'll say, well, there's always been killing.
I hear your argument. I hear your argument.
We don't want to
go ahead,
that.
Make it. You got some points to be made, and you're making them well. Yeah, that's good.
But right now,
that's good.
But right now, there's nothing failed in every way. Every way failed. I'll give you the best example. I'll put my prop on now.
Put it on.
This.
That's good. What is that?
The foreign minister. The foreign minister of Venezuela flew me 2 years ago for a whole week. Expenses paid in a Hilton hotel that they had bought. The Revolution bought. Yeah. So that I could investigate for Ramsey myself. All the wonder. It was the most wonderful week of my life.
Ramsey Clark is a hero of mine.
Yeah, but I'm pushing Ramsey all the time to speak out a little bit more.
Wonderful.
You see, Ramsey Clark,
a scholar.
Ramsey Clark said, the greatest crime since World War II has been U.S. foreign policy. But we have to prosecute it. I quote Noam Chomsky all the time. He's very helpful to me.
Noam Chomsky's a real scholar.
Noam Chomsky said, and I quote him all the time.
Yeah, good.
He said it over and over again. Every new president is elected. He said every president since Truman would have been hung if tried by the same Nuremberg principles that are the law now.
Yes, right.
But he doesn't mention the law. He said, if they had been tried. Now, Noam has never said, let's do it. We got the law. Let's do it. He's never said that.
Let's put the winners in the dock, is what you're saying, in a sense? They were the winners. The winners never go in the dock.
No, never mind the winner.
I mean, okay. No. But the law has been broken by the...
Okay. Stick to what.
Okay, let's get to what you're actually thinking.
Stick to what Noam Chomsky said.
Okay, good.
Noam Chomsky said would have been hung if tried by the Nuremberg principles. What does that mean?
So why aren't they hung by the Nuremberg?
That's the
point you're trying to get across.
That's the logical thing that doesn't make sense. It doesn't go.
So you're saying you got to put the winners in the dock, or on the scaffold?
No, you have to say the same thing.
Or on the chopping block. That usually hasn't happened, I don't think. The winners are the winners because they want to be the ones to put the others on the chopping block, not to have them put on the chopping block. And that's been not just America. That's been the history of much of the history of the world. I think I may be wrong. I don't want to interfere with your thing. But I understand what you're saying, and it's an interesting thing to elaborate. How would it be done, or what would it be? What should we do?
Well, the last thing I said there was a big, the foreign minister was opening a new school. Yeah. And there was a huge audience of professors and students. Mm-hmm. And we were all asked to say something. There was a Jamaican that spoke before me, and I said, I speak Spanish, so I said in Spanish, Spanish is a warmer language. And I said, what I heard, what I saw, what I feel is a revolution really of love, and insanity. And I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life with the support of Ramsey Clark to seeding in the public consciousness worldwide the confidence that the United States will be sued for massive crimes against humanity, untold death, millions of tens of millions of injuries, the destruction of property, stolen natural resources. When and we don't know how.
Yeah. Okay.
But
right.
when it becomes a topic of conversation,
okay, it
in
should
the
be
street corner,
yeah. Right. Okay.
in the schools,
yeah.
in
Okay.
the cafes,
yeah, and that okay.
there will be a
I
way
hear,
to found.
okay.
And that proof of the pudding is
Yeah.
Martin
I hear
Luther
you.
King had no court, just like the people try to fool us, and the progressives say, "Well, we got no court, so we can't call for prosecution." You can't say the truth unless you think the truth is going to do something. Well, saying the truth is its own reward. These are prosecutable crimes. They're not foreign policy. They're prosecutable crimes. And say it until finally people start to say, "Hey, how long is this going on?" And I'll tell you this: when China now becomes the top economy in the world, the largest economy in the world, and then follows with the other economies of India, Indonesia, Brazil. Brazil is enormous, you know. This Economist magazine predicts that in 30 years, less than 30 years, I think, that the plundered countries of the colonial period, which we are still in with neocolonialism, the economy of the plundered nations will be greater than the economy of, let's say, the white people, you know, white folks. White folks right now have every single country is part of the coalition in Afghanistan, even Andorra and Liechtenstein. The white people are stuck together very well. Well, what's going to happen then? What's going to happen? First thing is the United Nations will be reconstituted. It won't be in charge. It won't be controlled by the United States and England anymore. And when they do that, they'll make the courts available to adjudicate all these people calling for prosecution of American citizens and citizens of NATO countries. I don't mean political leaders. I don't mean political leaders. I mean the real ditty. The people are going to have to pay up.
There should be a citizens tribunal.
Yeah,
they tried to do it. Ramsey tried. That thing I said, the picture there. That's where they gave a talk where they had a people's jurisdiction to attack to indict the United States of America, and they brought them up on trial, and they were convicted of guilty.
Absolutely.
This picture of Ramsey was at that thing where he's announcing that. It was great.
Absolutely. Now,
it was at Martin King Hospital.
Now we're in agreement on this. We're in agreement on this. So what's blocking us?
Well,
what's stopping us? And I'll go through the things that are stopping us.
Please do. Yeah. Okay. Please do. Okay.
The first thing is stopping us is the deceptions of everything that's happening. The people are fooled about everything. They don't even know that World War II was planned on Wall Street. How could Hitler, flat out Germany, poverty Germany, how could it possibly have armed and then be in 5 years of Hitler's office, being stronger than the British in 5 years? From World War I, everything was taken away from them. Now in 5 years, Ford Motor.
They had a huge plant there. It wasn't bombed.
All 50.
You notice it wasn't bombed, even when the firebombing of Dresden was going on.
All 50 top U.S. corporations invested in Hitler.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that means they were investing in the Holocaust too.
Well, all right, but they were more worried about the Bolsheviks than they were about the fascists.
Now you put your finger on it.
Yeah.
Now you put your finger on it. That's it. So that's one big deception, and that deception leads to many, many, many other deceptions, right? What's another deception? The deception is that this facade of presidential power, as if the people who put Obama in power, those elite on Wall Street, are going to let Obama or this mentally challenged Bush or the peanut farmer or the hat salesman Truman, as if they're going to let those guys actually make decisions. The last president we had, the last president we had. Now we're talking about the past. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The last president who was a aristocratic president and had any influence at all was Roosevelt. He was a big, wealthy insider, And Roosevelt, we know, said to his confided in confidence The historians found this document about 15 years. He said in 1932, you and I know that the government has been owned by a financial element in the centers of power since the days of Andrew Jackson.
Is that the same?
Since the days of Andrew Jackson.
Okay,
but
enough.
in the meantime, but what's been happening since then?
Yeah.
Everybody says, what's Obama doing? Obama's this, but Obama's a straw man.
Have they always been, or
Well, I just said Roosevelt wasn't exactly a straw man, but even Roosevelt admitted that he wasn't in control. You think Roosevelt made Social Security, made unemployment compensation when the country was completely broke? The rich people said, yeah, go ahead.
Well, one of the things...
Go ahead, taxes 96%, and make all these plans.
Yeah.
Why? Because, as you said before, the Bolsheviks were a danger because all the world was going socialist.
No, they were worried about that. Yeah, they wanted to attack Stalin.
Fascism was the answer.
They actually thought in Germany there was going to be an alliance by the joining the German army against the Bolsheviks. They were pretty bit deluded. Or you're aware, Mr. Eisenhower, after being president, said, and boy, evolved the military-industrial complex.
Eisenhower is a great example. Now, Eisenhower...
And one last thing, Jay, if I could. A lot of the historians or people who look at the period and everything say the major thing that Roosevelt did in the context of their falling apart was he saved capitalism. We have to save capitalism above all else. Would you have exception to that, or do you think...
The only exception is Roosevelt himself said that he didn't do it because the government is not controlled by him.
No, but was it important to save... Obama will claim after 2008
Roosevelt did save capitalism, but he's credited for it. But it was the Wall Street decided to save capitalism by making socialism.
But politically...
Not Roosevelt. Roosevelt couldn't have done it without the big pockets saying, go ahead. You understand?
Well, maybe we've gotten that far where it was already in their pocket.
Let's go back to Eisenhower you mentioned. Eisenhower, when he did
92% income tax rate.
The next thing I want to talk about is the progressives who are really blocking anything that happens.
The progressives are blocking. Who is the progressives?
And I'll give an example.
International Action Committee? Ramsey Clark, is he blocking it?
No, Ramsey Clark is not a progressive.
How many? Oh, he's not. Who are the progressives? I mean, I don't know who you mean by progressive.
Anybody that isn't a revolutionary is a progressive. You know, progressive what? It's an adjective. By progressive, you mean progressive capitalist?
Yeah.
I'm a progressive capitalist. I'm a progressive imperialist. I want less every year. I want a little less genocide.
Right. Yeah, okay.
That's
good.
progressive. That's progress.
Fair enough.
Go back to Eisenhower.
Yeah, okay.
Here's what the progressives do. They quote Eisenhower saying, Eisenhower said, we must beware of the industrial military complex. Yeah. But he said it 2 hours before he wasn't president anymore. And while he was president, he did exactly what the industrial military complex told him to do. He put a contract on the Congo. Patrice Lumumba. He let the Dulles brothers knock off Guatemala. It's the biggest genocide imaginable because it continued for years afterwards. And that's what radicalized Che Guevara, because he was there taking care of the lepers as a doctor, and he saw this happening. He said, I'm going to dedicate my life to being a revolutionary and fighter. Because I'll save more lives than trying to be a doctor.
Okay, give me a little.
Now let me finish Roosevelt.
Okay, hurry up. But I want to get a definition of what you mean of a revolutionary. Who is a revolutionary, and what are they being a revolutionary for?
Yeah, I don't want to be a dictionary today.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, what else did he do? He bombed Laos.
Yeah, it was horrible. Yeah.
He's the first to bomb Laos, and Laos became the most bombed country in the nation in the history of the world.
Is that a true fact, really, by some statistic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, horrible.
And
I think there were 4 to 5 million people killed in that encounter in Mr. George Kennedy.
And there's Korea. He flew the bombs. He was going to bomb. He said going to. No, he didn't do it. Like I said, he was told to do it, right?
Yeah.
Roosevelt, the industrial complex told Roosevelt to threaten the North with North Korea with atom bombs. They're already scorched land them. They already tried to drop bacterial weapons and everything. And so you see Eisenhower did this throughout his whole 8 years. He's just a yes man. And they all were the same. This Truman, you think, now, when Truman took over, and by the way, Roosevelt died, right? Roosevelt was going too far, the same as Kennedy was. Roosevelt was saying, like Wilson said at the end of the First World War, I think the colonies, we're going to make all the colonies independent. I mean, let Europe give up its colonies. Whoa, wait a minute. You're going to let that happen? No way. Stalin was convinced that Roosevelt was poisoned. He was going to die anyway, but I mean, they had to get him out of the quick. What happened as soon as Roosevelt died? We get all this national security state. We get total another wave of Red Scare. And what's the Red Scare? The Soviets have lost 7 million people dead.
I thought it was more like 30. I thought it was 30 million.
Half of his cities destroyed.
Yeah.
There's the point. Half of his cities destroyed.
Yeah.
And they're still worried about them. What are you worried about?
Well, it's a PR thing for one thing.
What's this?
You got to have somebody to
How can they take over the world?
No.
Anyway, the world's already been taken over by colonialism for years, by Britain, everybody else. And it's laughable to say that communism is trying to take over the world. It's already taken over.
When you say the revolutionaries, is it so that you can have a communist system and get rid of the private sector? What does a revolutionary mean?
I don't want it.
What does it mean to be a revolutionary? How do you fight it? And Roosevelt saved capitalism. That's what they'll say. And they said the same thing about Obama in 2008. I just read Geithner's book on what happened when they had to bail out the banks in 2008. And they say they had to do it or there would be a collapse, an absolutely anarchistic collapse of the entire economic order if they did not bail out the banks and everything like that. They saved capitalism, the great figures in that. And now you're saying you want to be a revolutionary against capitalism or against what?
Or bebopping around.
Or to be what?
I mean, if you want to bebop around, I can just take your word anarchism. Well, let's talk about anarchism.
Okay, good. That's the thing.
I mean, it just goes on forever.
Kropotkin.
Unless we talk about real events, like a historian does. Because a historian is not supposed to have any opinions. And I seem to feel, I love you, Harold, but you seem to be asking for my opinion. I don't have opinion.
Oh, okay.
You know the word opinion. You know the word opinionated, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now if a historian has an opinion, who cares? What kind of a historian is he?
Yeah. Okay.
Facts are there. We don't want to mull around, right?
Good point.
Okay. Now the fact is that the progressives in every way are a block against, because they're the people that know the most. There are, scholars or historians, and what are they saying? They're saying protest. They're not saying indict. They're saying protest, and they're compromising everything. You see, when they say Black Lives Matter, what do they mean? My article says the slogan Black Lives Matter doesn't apply to the blacks being killed overseas by GIs, including black GIs.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So this is all bullshit because Martin Luther King said, not only are we responsible, not the government, and they're protesting to the government. You're responsible. I'm responsible.
You think we get a people thing?
So then,
okay, go ahead.
So then the blacks that are killing overseas come back to the States, and they want to be protected. No. The civil rights movement is a pro-war movement. It's obvious. It's been obvious for a long time. We have Arundhati Roy in a new book. Capitalism is a ghost story.
I haven't seen it.
She says it very clearly.
I know.
She says what the church was during the early colonization of the 3 continents now is filled by the foundations, and the foundations are supporting all the progressive movements, and they divide them up into a lot of things.
We only got a couple minutes left, and who are some of the major? You got Roy, you got Noam Chomsky, right? You got Howard Zinn. You got who are some of the voices of that? that are particularly good, that you would be able to draw some positive thinking, or at least filling out your the people that are worth paying attention to encourage the kind of thing that you're trying to encourage to happen?
None of them.
None of them. There's nobody.
Nobody asking what I'm asking for. I'm asking for, let's focus on, like I said to the people, confidence in the people that we're going to have justice for all the victims of American imperialism.
Okay, that's a real thing. Yeah, that's something. And do you
I'm
get
talking about people? I'm talking about opinions. I'm talking about. Let's understand what's happening now. We can't understand what's happening. Number one.
Okay.
Because the media is in charge.
Yeah.
And they got all the falsifications.
Yeah.
As if we're trying to really protect the Pope against, against what? Against something they want us to fear, so they can do something next to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, they've got everything. They've got everything controlled. They shut up Martin Luther King. They shot him, and all the things and movements like Black Lives Matter.
You think they brought down the trade towers?
And black.
You think they brought down the trade towers?
No, that would be like changing the subject.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It could have. Well, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So what we have here is Martin Luther King saying very clearly, I can't be involved in trying to bring social justice at home. There will be no progress on on issues of social justice, racial justice, and economic justice at home, as long as we're killing people, the poor overseas, at an expense of human and financial resources that makes it impossible for anything to be done at home.
What you're saying is absolutely true. It's absolutely sinful, the number of people that have been just killed with impunity all over the world by the United States Army and military forces and things like that. And somebody ought to be put in the dock. Somebody ought to be brought up on charge.
I don't want anybody into the dock. I want the killing to stop.
Oh, well, yes, all right, but that's a good thing.
No, but you see, you put somebody in the dock often. It's just you put somebody in the dock very often to fool people. They put the Nuremberg criminals in the dock, and they didn't put any banker, and they didn't put any investor.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And when we went right on the next homicide, when next genocide continued immediately in Congo, in Korea, in Guatemala, et cetera, and all the colonies.
It's true, and you lay it out so well. You really do. I truly do. I thank you very much for coming in.
I don't think I did.
But particularly for such a very, 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 very well-led life, young man. I want to congratulate you. And television has a tyranny. It's time. We've run out of time. We've run out of time.
One sentence.
Can you do haiku?
Can you do one sentence? Yeah, I can do it.
No, in haiku.
In haiku.
Really quick.
Okay. I failed. I failed because I know everybody, including Maduro, and I couldn't get one Venezuelan over these years to quote Martin Luther King.
Keep the faith, brother. Keep the faith, and thanks for coming in.
That's what Ramsey Clark
says.
Support
these young men.
That's
Support these young men.
Ramsey
right.
Clark
Well, that's
that
a good.
Keep the faith.
Ramsey's a great guy to be associated with. We've got some your contact you could with this young man. Get behind him. He's an interesting fellow. Thank you very much for viewing. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Cal.
No, it's my pleasure.
I've enjoyed your program all these years.
Well, all right. Thank you for that. And anyway, we're coming back again tomorrow. And thanks again, Jay. It's so good. This is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
I hope so.
Okay? Yeah, okay. Okay, that's it. Come back.